Politics and veganism have a complicated relationship, to say the least. While many vegans utilize political channels, working within the existing system in an effort to effect change, whether by creating and signing petitions, lobbying government officials, proposing changes to legislation, or even running for office themselves, for many others, the inadequacies, injustices, and special interest-driven corruption of our government have resulted in a complete lack of faith in any substantial change happening through political channels. But this election cycle brings an approach we've not seen before. Vegan presidential and vice presidential candidates whose platform explicitly includes the eradication of exploitation through the liberation and legal protection of all animals. Hi, it's Emily from Bite Size Vegan, and welcome to another Vegan Nugget. I've long intended to produce a veganism and politics series, and with Election Day closing in, it seemed that now was an ideal time to start. While one of the videos in this series will focus on vegan and vegan-friendly political parties around the world, today we'll focus on a relatively new and decidedly unique one here in the United States, the Humane Party. Now, if you're familiar with my channel, you'll know that I strive to provide free educational content backed by solid research. Coming from an academic and educational perspective, I always lay out the facts as they are for your consideration and evaluation. This is not about pandering, equivocating, nor excusing. It's about attempting to provide what every person deserves: free access to grounded information, as unbiased as possible. In the case of interviews, I strive to allow my guests to convey their own experience and position. As I've stated in many of my videos, vegans come from all walks of life, with views that span the entire political spectrum. And while the Green Party has long attracted sustainably minded vegans and non-vegans alike, no formal political platform has ever proposed the full elimination of human and non-human exploitation through legal means. Such an endeavor is faced with a great deal of obstacles, which is why I reached out to the Humane Party's first ever presidential candidate, Clifton for comment. And he was kind enough to offer an interview on the matter. Before we hear from Clifton, let's take a very brief overview of the Humane Party's 2016 to 2017 platform. It consists of 15 resolutions, including supporting proposed acts and constitutional amendments. You can find links to the full text and more information on the blog post linked in the description below. While we're going to focus today on the non-human animal abolition and personhood legislation of the Humane Party, this is not the full scope of the platform. It includes, among other things, addressing budgetary concerns, replacing the Electoral College with democratic election, reforming the criminal justice system, modernizing intellectual property and freedom of information laws, implementing humane education, defending the nation's natural resources and inhabitants, ending non-emergency use of toxic, hazardous, and economically untenable fuels and energy production methods, ensuring equality under federal, state, and territorial law, including but not limited to sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, and marriage equality, allowing the right to die, and recognizing through passing of the Genocide Recognition and Reparations Act the European invasion of the land masses now under U.S. jurisdiction as compromising a series of unprovoked acts of war and genocide, and the transatlantic human slave trade and the institution of human slavery itself also compromising a series of unprovoked acts of war and genocide. The proposed legislations we'll be focusing on are the Ape and Abolition Amendments. The American Primate Emancipation Amendment, or APE, abolishes slavery with respect to all primates in the United States, and is modeled after the 13th Amendment, abolishing human slavery. The party's stated strategy for separating apes from all other animals is to break, for the first time in U.S. history, the species barrier to legal standing, often called rights or personhood. Following the Ape Amendment would be the far more all-encompassing Abolition Amendment, which, upon ratification, will abolish slavery with respect to all animals, thereby putting an immediate end to the meat, dairy, egg, and other exploitation and killing-based industries. The fifth draft of this amendment is open for comments, criticism, and editorial suggestions from the public through November 4th of 2016. The link to that is also in the description. Given the scope of this proposed legislation and the formidable resources and influence of the animal products industry, along with the uphill battles so long fought by animal liberation activists, I sat down with the Humane Party's Clifton Roberts to ask some tough questions about his presidential vision. Clifton, I wanted to thank you so much for taking time out of your, of course, incredibly busy schedule at this point to be on the channel and answer some questions.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm a huge fan. I was actually telling my daughter, I said, I'm about to be on Skype with Emily, Bite Size Vegan. So I'm very honored to be on your show. I'm a huge fan of yours.
Well, thank you. I think it's reasonable to say that your and the Humane Party's stance on the abolishment of exploitation of all beings is
Hmm.
probably the most controversial and, from an outside perspective, unrealistic aspect of the platform. So, what concrete steps are you taking now, or would you take as a president to actually make this happen?
Yeah, I think for me right now, the first thing I think about is a two-prong approach. One, making sure that people understand that this is not a focus on food. This is a focus on lives. More so than ever, when we try to change the habits of people in this country, we are changing, we're asking them to change culture, we're asking them to change um, tradition in their habit. My mathematical equation for compassion, if you haven't heard, is compassion equals instinct minus habit minus tradition minus culture. So we're asking them to do something, and that's a lot of people to be asking. Where we have a very unique opportunity is what has not been working in trying to change the hearts and minds of that many people is to change the laws. To actually make that happen, this is all we need. We need to win 51 seats in the Senate, 218 seats in the House of Representatives, and one seat in the White House to have a majority in the executive branch and in the congressional branch. Now, I really want to put that into perspective. There are, by all accounts, 350 million people in the United States right now. All it will take for us to be able to fight for amendments like the Abolition Amendment or the Democracy for America Amendment or the Equal Rights Amendment 2 is a majority in Senate, a majority in the House of Representatives, and a president that lives their lives, his or her lives, according to humane values. So when you think about it, that is absolutely doable. That's what we're hoping that this campaign also does is by 2020, I'm hoping that I have to have a primary for the Humane Party. We're hoping to have that type of competition by then, but then if we inspire people to run for office.
I mean, at this point, you said you're not actively taking contributions, and even aside from that, you don't have any corporate or special interest ties. But given that the vast majority of people in the government, just like the vast majority of people in the world, are not vegan, and
Mm,
you can't always generalize, but politics kind of goes hand in hand with lobbying in our country, at least at this moment. So,
hmm.
I mean, we even are in a country where we have something like the AETA, which is just makes it possible to almost make any activist a terrorist by law.
Right,
So I mean, with this,
right.
the incredible strength of the animal products industry and these other interests that have kind of accomplished feats we wouldn't really think were possible, but because of the might and the money, with all of that resistance,
Hmm.
how do you see, I guess, getting past the checks and balances of the government as it is, since the president doesn't have dictatorial power or anything, like, because securing these different positions and all these things can sometimes take a lot of time. So, like, is it going to be able to even be implemented before the
Right.
next person would come into office as the president?
That's an honest challenge. I really believe that. I'm not going to try to dance around that. I actually agree with you. That is an honest challenge. But I think the way that we can optimize that risk, and when I say optimize, I don't want to say minimize, but I really want to optimize that risk, is we need to bombard our congressional seats and the choices of presidential candidates. That is key because until now, we haven't had that discussion about veganism in politics. It isn't until the Humane Party came along and we're starting to see, hey, did you know there's a vegan presidential candidate? This year, our goal was to insert ourselves into the national dialogue. I'm going to be prepared to run again in 2020, and I'm also going to run for Senate upcoming here. Science is what? Repeating a process over and over again until it's statistically valid, right? So if we know that we live in a country that the citizens who are elected by the rest of the citizens to represent their interests have the most power and are able to introduce new legislation into Congress for debate and then passed, why are we ignoring that?
Right. I mean, what do you think about the perspective that, are we trying to fix a broken system within a broken system when maybe the entire system needs to be reevaluated or changed? You have some people saying, like, well, we can't fix these things from within the system of politics, which in and of itself is so inherently corrupt or non-functional or, based on lobbying and everything. So, and so, I mean, what do you say to that, number one? And then number two, do you think there is a level of almost having to play a game that you disagree with within your own values in order to even succeed enough to make that difference?
Yeah, well, we've seen Donald Trump destroy that notion now. Do we have to play the game? I'm learning. Why don't you ask me that in a few years? Because I want to be honest with you and your audience. I'm a newcomer to this game, and so I still don't know how it's played yet.
Right.
From all accounts, from my perspective, we've been nominated as a first-time ever Humane Party candidate, Breeze Harper and I, and I can truly say, Emily, that the response that we've received and the feedback that we've received and the inputs that we've received, the letters that we've received have been so positive that I can't tell you that it is not successful. I think we have embarked on a journey and we were very successful at what it is we wanted to do this election cycle. So playing the game, ask me that in a little bit and I promise I'll have a better answer for you.
With the number of people who are involved in animal agriculture, or it's almost kind of infiltrates every level of any industry, from either, slaughterhouse workers or even people who own their own, like, small slaughterhouses, or even, farmers, these kind of things. Do you think there'll be any part of your presidency or the platform that will kind of be offering some form of, transitional assistance to help people kind of find different aspects of employment, or kind of help people kind of transition out of that in a way?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we've worked on for the past year and a half since I've been involved with the Humane Party is a team dedicated to developing the solutions for transition. And at least writing those solutions up. So we have a team at Humane Party of volunteers, by the way, that have actually come in with educational backgrounds, attorneys, lawyers, agricultural professionals, PhDs in science, engineering, and technology that have come in, and they are helping us with those.
I think something that some people might not realize when, especially when people bring up the argument of, like, vegan food is so expensive, is, like, the level of, like, government subsidies that go into animal products to create this kind of, like, false low pricing. So one thing I was wondering is, do you have a plan for, like, where those subsidies would be rerouted, and or would there be any kind of, like, subsidizing of vegan or plant-based products?
Absolutely. 100% subsidies of vegan and plant-based products.
Awesome.
Well, I mean, no hesitation whatsoever, eliminating and drastically reducing, fighting our hearts out to eliminate the subsidies that are going to the dairy and the murder industries, just eliminating those altogether. We had that, our platform includes modernizing intellectual property and freedom of information laws. And part of that is protecting people who expose these practices, reversing the Animal Enterprise "quote unquote" Terror Act. I mean, reversing that's just ridiculous.
It's been around so long too.
Yeah. Well, you have to think when you develop an organization, right? And you have organizations like the USDA or Department of Agriculture, whatever.
Right.
And you have people that are from the industries that are working in those in government to help pass any of these type of acts.
Right.
That's why, again, it goes back to those 51 people. We have to infiltrate and we really have to leverage that. So yes, absolutely 100% eliminating subsidies to dairy, murder industry, to meat industry, and subsidizing farmers, but definitely providing and redirecting those subsidies to people that are helping this planet be more sustainable.
I hope you enjoyed hearing directly from Clifton. Again, this is a very cursory look into these issues and the Humane Party as a whole. I do plan on digging deeper into the nuances of non-human abolition legality and viability in a future video in this series. I've included links on the blog post to a 2-part video series about voting vegan and an hour-long interview series with Clifton by The Onion Night Show, as well as information on how to write in a candidate who's not on your ballot, if that's something that you're wanting help with. I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything we've covered today. What do you think of utilizing the legislative system to achieve total animal liberation? If you're vegan, do you see your veganism as inherently political? If you're non-vegan, what do you think about the granting of personhood to traditionally food animals? Let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, do give it a thumbs up and share it around to inform. And be sure to subscribe for more vegan content every week. To help support Bite Size Vegan's educational efforts, please see the support links below or the link in the sidebar. Now go live vegan, let your voice be heard, and I'll see you soon. You know, there's now like state-specific law debate about whether you can take a selfie in a voting booth. How did it come to this?